We are at our special order of business. This is SB 649, Senator Wesso, who has waived presentation on this item. We will open testimony for regular support and opposition for this item. At the conclusion, we will initiate a conference call through the sergeants to allow special accommodations for remote witnesses. Reminder that the testimony should be limited only to the fiscal aspects of the legislation. Only to the fiscal aspects of the legislation, okay? So with that, we are gonna open the discussion on SB 649 and ask for the witnesses in support first, and then we'll move to opposition. So witnesses in support. Please.
Mr. Chair and members, Steve Carlson for CTIA, the Wireless Industry Association. We're here along with our sponsors, our supporters. In deference to the committee's time, we had not planned to testify given the waiver of presentation, but we are here if need be.
All right, thank you. Any additional witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition?
Yes, we have 3 witnesses in opposition, and we'd like to take them in the following order. I have a brief statement. We'd like to go to the call-in, if we can, and then come back to
Give me a quick second. Are you witnesses in support or in opposition?
Opposition.
Okay, perfect. 1 second. So let's take your witnesses.
Yes, can we do it in that order with the phone-in being second? Is that okay?
That's fine, as long as we stay to the fiscal aspects of the bill. With this.
Fiscal aspects. So
Perfect.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. So please vote no on SB 649, an extremely costly bill that robs the public of their wealth and health to further enrich private wireless companies who have over a decade of broken promises to use funds that the public already paid 9 times over on their wireline phone bills to install fiber optic to their homes. Instead of upgrading wireline with fiber optic, as they were required to do, these companies fraudulently transferred these funds to the unregulated wireless divisions. That's right. Grandma's landline phone bill financed the build-out of 4G LTE. With the continuing list of due process violations of SB 649 starting at 9:31 a.m. on April 21st, these violations include improper notice on California government website of record for SB 649, language in the current bill from 5/2/17 that is not consistent with the language voted on by the Governance and Finance Committee on April 26, 2017, and we have a subcommittee created on that date to conduct darkroom deals outside of public view. The current language has loopholes in it. It does not match what was voted on. The suggested fix is clear, and I gave it to the consultants, but ignored. Finally, the wireless bonanza has also created a large disabled population in California. Radio frequency microwave radiation currently disables 1.2 million Californians, and that will grow exponentially with the passage of SB 649, resulting in many tens of millions in state disability benefits and increased medical and other state health insurance costs. We have signed on over 175 people online in a conference call right now that would love to participate and answer the following question. Are you electromagnetically sensitive, and have you been harmed physically and financially by radio frequency microwave radiation from wireless facilities? The resounding answer would be yes. SB 649 states, quote, a small cell shall be permitted if it satisfies the compliance with the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act, end quote. Quite simply, cell phone towers 10 to 20 feet from second-story bedroom windows violates the ADA. Our next speaker, a disabled electromagnetic sensitive person, will give her personal testimony.
Thank you. My name is Nina Beatty. Thank you for this disabled accommodation so I can speak. I'm disabled by electromagnetic sensitivities to cell towers, cell phones, Wi-Fi, and smart meters. EMS is recognized by the U.S. Access Board and is a protected disabled characteristic. California's 1998 survey found 3.2% of respondents were very sensitive or allergic to electromagnetic radiation. That was 1.1 million Californians. This is not an orphan illness. This bill does not comply with ADA. Small cell towers are are an access barrier for the EMF disabled to their homes and communities. Since 1998, radiation levels have soared. How many more Californians have EMS? You don't know because industry is moving too fast. My symptoms include heart arrhythmias, severe sleep disruption, migraines, nausea, and loud ringing in my ears. U.S. and international experts warn about the public health cost. Other countries are taking protective steps. This bill mandates more public exposure, liability for the state. Halt this bill so you can examine these issues. They say this bill costs California nothing. That's false. My costs include at least $500,000 in lost income, which costs the state in tax revenue. If 10,000 Californians are EMF disabled with $50,000 per year lost income, that's $500 million of economic impact, including taxes. Local economic losses to stores, restaurants, coffee shops, businesses from the $4 coffee and $25 meal once a month and $40 concert tickets 3 times a year I don't buy is $568 per year. 100,000 people like me means $56 million less for local economies. I've lost access to most of these places, too, due to their wireless. I've also lost access to ambulance services and the hospital. Cell towers nearby will likely kill me, and there are other unfunded costs to this bill. Halt this bill or delay it until the next session and examine these issues. Thank you. May I put documents electronically into the record?
Thank you. Your last witness.
Thank you. My name is Harry Layman. I am a trial lawyer by experience, but an old one doing other work now. I've dedicated the last 6 years of my life to this particular issue based on scientific study. My background was in engineering cases, including the Yuba flood cases, for example. I would speak as to those as an example where fiscal catastrophe resulted from litigation that should have been avoided, because I know the inside of that one, because I was one of the plaintiff's lawyers, and I will tell you that the eventual $423 million settlement that took 12 years that should have never been wasted, it could have been settled, in my view, having been one of the plaintiff's lawyers, for probably $90 million, except for this unfortunate decision to fight. The relevance of that here, too, fiscally, now, is that there has been notice violation here in multiple ways. There were simultaneous issuances of contradictory positions from 2 separate state websites as to whether or not the bill was in fact going to be on. And as a result, we had nearly the attendance and the quality of testimony we would have otherwise had. In addition to that, it is my understanding that with regard to the profuse amendments involved, that there's a Senate rule requiring that the amendments be supplied in writing to the other committee members 2 days before the hearing upon which those amendments are approved. That was not complied with. So rather than this just being a toss-up or a close call for a sitting judge, I think it's actually, unfortunately, a strong case in terms of lack of notice. And I would like to give up that sword. I would like to say to you, take it. And the way to take it is to do this correctly with correct notice, so I don't have that tool. I'd like to give it up. But speaking of swords and fiscal consequences, this is what I said in my letter a couple of days ago that you have. This is really a wonderful moment for the fiscal health of California to pull the sword of courage out of the stone of apathy here, because, well, one of the points I wanted to make, on the way up here, I stopped at this gas station.
Ask you to wrap up, please.
Say again?
I'll ask you to wrap up.
Yeah.
Time's up.
Point is that the damage being done to people here is being done acoustically. That is to say, in physics, acoustic means that there's a transmission mechanically through a medium having an effect. It's not ionic. And this is well established through the work of, at the University of Maryland in 1983 of Swycord and Francis, showing that when they put a 7.43 concentration of DNA salts into water, the resulting fluid had a 24-fold increase in specific absorption rate. That, in turn, was non-ionic. And that's what's happening to people here as a result of these machines. The consequence of this physically is going to be a disaster for California, and people are going to die and be very sick if this is allowed to go forward in its current form. So I plead for further study. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Additional witnesses in opposition.
May we go to the table, stakeholders, and have a completely different perspective for our opposition?
Go ahead.
Sit down. Sure.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. We appreciate the time. Ronnie Verdugo here on behalf of the League of California Cities, and also here on behalf of our coalition of local government stakeholders, including CSAC, the rural and urban counties. Unfortunately, our coalition remains strongly opposed to SB 649 as amended. The bill would unnecessarily strip away local discretion, public input, and the ability for local governments to charge fair market rates for the rental of public property. For us, SB 649 is a bag of empty promises. The sponsors promise to rapidly roll out 5G technology throughout the state, yet the bill has no requirements for the providers to build out their networks in any, let alone poor suburban or rural parts of the state, nor does it have to be 5G or even 4G technology. The industry promises local discretion, but yet limits complete discretion to just the nicer parts of California, such as in coastal zones and in historic districts. Every other community in California would not see the benefits from full discretionary reviews, such as requiring small cells to blend into their environment, such as palm trees or paint colors on decorative infrastructure, preventing small cell installation outside of areas that may obstruct the view from someone's home, or from installing other technology on that same property without substantial evidence for needing to do so. It would prevent us from negotiating any public benefit, such as access for police, fire, and library services. And it would prevent us from requiring regular maintenance during certain hours of the day, or repair or replacement of broken or dilapidated small cells. Given that this is the fiscal committee, it's important to note that these concerns, as they can have damaging effects on the characters of our communities. Not being able to control what these devices look like and can make a decision tougher for businesses to want to locate in certain neighborhoods, especially if those neighborhoods have historically been marginalized. While our concerns on these components remain strong, SB 649's most damage would be setting a dangerous precedent of limiting local government's abilities to generate flexible dollars. This legislation should know better than any in this country that in an era of Prop 13 and Prop 26, local governments don't have much else to leverage to better their communities. Revenues from leases and rents, including small cells, have grown significantly over the last 2 decades, from $200 million in 2000 to about $840 million in 2015. These are general fund dollars that can be used to pay for public services such as police, fire, pensions, and libraries. Taking this tool away will only further hamstring the ability for local governments to pay for these essential services and force us to look at increasing taxes or taking on more debt, and for what in exchange? What will the legislature get in exchange for streamlining and capping the rental market for small cells? Not a requirement for 5G or build out or discretion or any negotiated public benefit or the prettiest equipment or local revenues. What we get is our ability to leverage public property for public benefit, taken away at the expense of local dollars, public input, and the character of our communities. Let's not forget, for cities, we welcome new technology, but we also encourage collaboration. SB 649 removes that incentive for collaboration, and for those reasons, we remain strongly opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. That is the city's position, so I want to make sure that if
League of California Cities.
the league's position, so if we can make the rest of the opposition move quickly, we would appreciate that.
Thank you for your time.
Chris Lee on behalf of the California State Association of Counties. Strictly speaking to the fiscal impacts of the bill, I think there's 3 areas where there could potentially be cost to local jurisdictions based on this legislation. First is related to the permitting fees, where SB 649 does allow fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory fees to offset those costs. The second would be our ability to lease and license our property, and as the League of Cities mentioned, SB 649 would limit that to what we think is a below-market rate for the installation of those facilities. And the third and final area of cost where we think there is potentially a reimbursable state mandate would be the administrative costs borne by a city or county in having to create a program to license and lease their property for the use of small cells. So this is something that state law currently does not require. We don't think that the fees for the ongoing licensing and licensing are sufficient to cover those administrative costs, and there's a potential reimbursable mandate there that would come at the state's expense.
Steve Cruz on behalf of the City of San Jose, and I'll be brief, Chair. I would, echo the comments made by the previous speaker, but just want to give at least one example for the City of San Jose. It's the base rate for access for these facilities is $3,000. Fluctuates depending upon location, higher and more the urban core and dense areas, but on average is $3,000. So it's a significant cut in that regard. I think the other thing we wanted to make sure and emphasize is that the center of Silicon Valley, San Jose, prides itself on being digitally connected, and so we agree with the underlying, objective of the bill. But like other cities, we suffer from a digital divide, and so the city has embarked on a very aggressive initiative to try to address that and expand their digital infrastructure. And one of the ways that we can do that is through our agreements with the industry in terms of the location of these facilities. And so it takes away that tool to serve those underserved and disadvantaged communities, and for those reasons, we oppose the bill.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in opposition.
Hello, yes, my name is Deborah Whitman, and I'm the president of a nonprofit called Environmental Voices. And I'm one of millions that suffer from EMF sensitivities, and I'm opposed to any spending on this issue, and I oppose this legislation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, David Jones on behalf of the cities of Burbank, Glendale, the cities of Marin and Murrieta, Pasadena, and San Marcos opposed for the fiscal reasons mentioned by the League and CSAC. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. Elizabeth Espinosa here today in opposition on behalf of the boards of supervisors in the counties of Riverside and Santa Clara. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members. I'm Lauren De Valencia, representing the American Planning Association. We just really briefly would echo all the comments of the League and CSAC, and just want to remind members, some of you have also sat on the policy committee where this bill was heard, and some of the concerns that were raised have not been addressed in the amendments that were made. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Tracy Ryan, Rural County Representatives of California. I'd like to align my comments with the other counties and cities before me. Thank you.
Laura Parr on behalf of the cities of Long Beach, Riverside, and San Carlos in opposition.
What was that, Long Beach again? Did you say?
Sylvia Solis Shaw on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco. The policy as outlined in the bill would have severe impacts on our local planning processes. In addition, we would have very negative consequences with the caps on the fees. So we are very strongly opposed to the measure. I'd also like to voice the opposition of the cities of Beverly Hills and Santa Monica and the boards of supervisors for the counties of Kern, Stanislaus, San Luis Obispo, and San Joaquin. Thank you.
Jordan Ellison with Ellison Wilson Advocacy on behalf of the cities of Inglewood, La Cañada, Flint Ridge, El Centro, and Santee in opposition.
Audrey Durfer on behalf of the County of San Mateo and the County of Sacramento in opposition.
Jonathan Clay on behalf of the County of San Diego and the City of Encinitas in opposition.
Steve Wallach on behalf of the Orange County Board of Supervisors and the County of Ventura in opposition.
John Moffitt on behalf of Marin County and the City of Visalia in opposition.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Actually, California State Sheriff's Association here in support of the bill. Just to let you know, thank you.
Thank you. The sheriff's in support. Duly noted. Finance has no file. Comments or questions from committee? Seeing and, Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I remember when this bill came before the policy committee, there was considerable conversation and discussion about it and some of the issues that were raised, and then it went to governance and finance, and I know some amendments have been taken. So I just, when it is considered in this committee, I hope we can look at some of the issues that have been raised and work closely with all sides in that to come to.
We will certainly.
I know you will.
Track of all the amendments that were proposed, and we'll follow up with further deliberation.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. With that objection, we move this item to the suspense file. Members, that concludes our agenda, correct? That concludes our agenda. I just want to thank you again for your time, and particularly last week not being able to have a hearing. I had a medical issue in the family, so I really appreciate your patience, Senator Bates and members. So with that, we adjourn our appropriations meeting for today. Thank you.